From 1941 onward, the Soviet Union began flooding the Eastern Front with sniper-trained troops. Over the course of the war, they would ultimately train hundreds of thousands. Mass production, mass deployment, overwhelming numbers. The assumption seemed obvious. Quantity would triumph over quality. Deploy enough marksmen and you will dominate any battlefield. The Germans certainly believed this. They expanded their sniper program specifically to counter Soviet numerical superiority. They trained thousands of their own snipers in response to the Soviet threat. But across the Channel, a different philosophy was taking shape. The British were rebuilding their sniper capability with a radically different approach. Not thousands of hastily trained shooters, not mass deployment across every squad and platoon. Instead, they were creating something far more dangerous. Elite specialists, rigorously selected, exhaustively trained, equipped with the finest rifle and scope combination of the war. What the British understood, and what their enemies would learn the hard way, was that in sniper warfare, one perfectly trained hunter could achieve what 100 average marksmen could not. This is the story of how British sniper superiority was built on quality, professionalism, and individual excellence. How British training methods, equipment, and doctrine created marksmen so effective they were 16,000 times more lethal than regular infantry. And how this philosophy of excellence over numbers would influence sniper doctrine for the next 80 years. The foundation of British sniper superiority began in the trenches of the First World War. A big-game hunter named Vernon Hesketh Pritchard arrived at the Western Front in 1915 and saw British soldiers dying daily to German snipers. The Germans had established sniper dominance. They selected men with hunting experience, equipped them with quality optics, trained them systematically. British forces had nothing comparable. Officers dismissed sniping as ungentlemanly. Soldiers had no training in counter-sniper work. Men died from shots they never saw coming. Hesketh Pritchard changed everything. He founded the first Army School of Sniping, Observation, and Scouting at Linghem in northern France in August 1916. Not a quick course, not basic marksmanship. This was comprehensive specialist training that created true professionals. His curriculum covered zeroing and grouping rifles for accuracy, field firing at realistic ranges, methods for judging distance precisely, camouflage and concealment techniques, snapshooting at fleeting targets, fieldcraft and stalking to approach undetected. He pioneered observation techniques using spotting scopes. He developed working in pairs with one man spotting while the other shot. He created dummy head systems to draw enemy fire and reveal sniper positions. The results were extraordinary. By 1916, his school was producing snipers at 3 times the rate of any other Allied training facility. More importantly, these men were saving lives. Conservative estimates suggest Hesketh Pritchard's program saved 3,500 Allied lives through effective counter-sniper operations. He established a doctrine that would define British sniping for generations. Quality over quantity, thorough training over hasty deployment, professional excellence over mass production. His book, Sniping in France, published in 1920, became the foundation text. British snipers would carry these lessons into the Second World War. But after the Great War ended, the lessons were nearly lost. Between 1918 and 1939, military authorities made a catastrophic assumption. As Lieutenant Colonel Nad Armstrong noted in 1942, there appeared to be a tendency amongst Army musketry men to scorn the sniper. They held that sniping was only a phenomenon of trench warfare and would be unlikely to occur again. Britain largely abandoned systematic sniper training. The expertise built so carefully by Hesketh Pritchard was allowed to decay. When war returned in 1939, British forces were unprepared. Then came Dunkirk. May 26 to June 4, 1940. Over 300,000 British and French troops evacuated from the beaches, a tactical masterpiece of withdrawal. But the lessons learned were sobering. German snipers had been devastatingly effective. They slowed British movements, created casualties, forced caution and delay. After Dunkirk, Britain faced a harsh reality. The sniper capability had to be rebuilt from scratch. But this rebuilding would be done the British way, not with hasty mass training, not with lowered standards to increase numbers. Instead, Britain returned to Hesketh Pritchard's philosophy: create elite specialists through rigorous selection and exhaustive training. The selection process alone separated British snipers from mass-produced marksmen. First requirement: volunteers only. No conscription into sniper roles. Every man had to choose this dangerous specialty. Second, demonstrated marksmanship excellence. Only the top rifle shots from each battalion were considered, men who consistently achieved the highest scores on the range. Third, the right temperament, patience, mental stability, ability to remain motionless for hours, capacity to work alone in no man's land. These psychological factors were as important as shooting skill. Fourth, fieldcraft ability. Preference went to countrymen, gamekeepers, deer stalkers, men who understood how to move through terrain without disturbing it, who could read the land instinctively. Finally, physical fitness. Snipers had to crawl for hours, lie in uncomfortable positions, extract rapidly when compromised. The role demanded peak physical condition. This selection weeded out perhaps 95% of volunteers. Only the exceptional proceeded to training, and the training was extraordinary. British sniper schools operated at locations including Bisley Camp in Surrey, the School of Musketry at Height in Kent, and the Infantry Battle School at Brecon in Wales. Royal Marines trained at Penal in South Wales beginning in 1942. Courses lasted 2 to 4 weeks. Compare this to Soviet training, where snipers received abbreviated basic instruction, then were attached to veterans for on-the-job learning. At Stalingrad, Soviet novice snipers had an average life expectancy of 2 weeks. British training left nothing to chance. Week 1 focused on rifle mastery, not just firing accurately, understanding the weapon intimately. Students learned to zero their rifles to their individual eye and shooting style. They practiced grouping shots at 100 wide until they could consistently place 7 rounds in a 5-inch circle, then 200 wide, then 400 wide, where they had to place 6 of 7 shots in a 10-inch circle, then 600 wide, finally 800 wide, pushing the effective range of their equipment. They learned to calculate wind drift, temperature effects on trajectory, how atmospheric pressure change point of impact, how to estimate range using multiple methods. But technical marksmanship was only the beginning. Week 2 covered observation, the skill that often mattered more than shooting. Students learned systematic scanning patterns, how to use 7-power binoculars effectively, how to operate the Scout Regiment telescope for long-range spotting. They practiced identifying targets at extreme distances, distinguishing enemy uniforms from civilian clothes at 600 wide, reading insignia to determine enemy unit identity, gathering intelligence that commanders needed. They learned to estimate distances accurately using multiple techniques, the appearance of objects at known ranges, bracketing between known distances, using map references and terrain features. Most critically, they learned patience. To watch a position for hours, waiting for a single fleeting target, to resist the temptation to fire at marginal opportunities, to wait for the perfect shot rather than reveal their position prematurely. Week 3 introduced fieldcraft, the art of becoming invisible. Students learned camouflage construction, not just wearing modeled clothing, creating ghillie suits from Hessian and natural materials that broke up the human outline completely. Understanding how light and shadow revealed or concealed positions, they practiced hide construction, selecting positions with natural concealment, preparing firing positions that offered multiple shots before extraction, creating routes in and out that left no trace. Stalking exercises pushed students to their limits. Instructors would position themselves with binoculars overlooking open ground. Students had to crawl hundreds of yards, get within range, and take a shot without being spotted. If the instructor saw any movement, the student failed. Many failed repeatedly. The exercises continued until students could move across supposedly open ground while remaining completely invisible to observers who knew they were coming. They learned movement discipline, how to move one limb at a time, how to use dead ground, how to select routes that offered natural concealment, how to time movements with distractions like artillery or aircraft. Week 4 covered counter-sniper work, the most dangerous specialty. Students studied enemy sniper tactics, likely position selection, common mistakes that revealed positions, how to identify muzzle flash, how to triangulate shots. They learned to use dummy heads to draw fire. The dummy would be positioned to look like a careless soldier. When the enemy sniper fired, British snipers would mark the shot direction and search for the position. They practiced patience in counter-sniper duels, waiting hours or even days for an enemy sniper to make a single mistake. One moment of carelessness, one glimpse of scope glint, one slight movement, and they learned the bitter mathematics of counter-sniper work. Even if you spot the enemy sniper first, if you miss your shot, you will almost certainly die. Counter-sniper engagements were first shot kills or fatal failures. Only after completing this exhaustive training did students return to their battalions as qualified snipers, but even then the learning continued. British sniper organizations centered on battalion-level sniper sections, typically 8 men, 1 sergeant, 1 corporal, 2 lance corporals, 4 privates. These men were drawn from the 4 rifle companies, but operated as a battalion asset under the intelligence officer. This gave commanders flexibility to deploy snipers where they were most needed rather than dispersing them across companies. By 1943, the standard allocation was 2 snipers per rifle company, but they trained together and often operated together, creating a concentration of expertise rather than isolated individuals. This organizational approach contrasted sharply with Soviet doctrine. The Soviets embedded snipers at squad and platoon level throughout their entire army. Hundreds of thousands of men carrying sniper rifles. The British approach meant fewer snipers but far greater expertise per individual, and the equipment matched the philosophy. The Leanfield No. 4 Mark 1T was perhaps the finest sniper rifle of the Second World War. Not because of innovative features, not because of advanced technology, but because of meticulous construction and proven reliability. The rifle began as a standard No. 4 Mark I. These rifles were tested at the factory for exceptional accuracy. Only rifles that demonstrated superior precision were selected for sniper conversion. The conversion added a wooden cheek piece to position the shooter's eye at the correct height for the scope. A mounting system was fitted to accept the number 32 telescopic sight. The rifle was then test-fired extensively. The accuracy standard was uncompromising. 7 shots out of 7 had to fall within a 5-inch circle at 200 wide. 6 shots out of 7 had to fall within a 10-inch circle at 400 wide. Rifles that failed were returned to standard infantry service. Over 20,000 No. 4T rifles were produced during the war. Holland, the prestigious gunmaker, converted approximately 21,617 rifles between 1942 and 1946. These craftsmen worked 7 days per week producing 5 converted rifles daily. The rifle specifications gave British snipers everything they needed. 303 British caliber with proven stopping power. Bolt-action mechanism that was reliable in any conditions. 10-round magazine capacity for sustained engagements. Barrel length of 25.2 in for velocity and accuracy. Total weight of 8.8 lb without scope was light enough for extended operations, but heavy enough to dampen recoil. Total length of 44 in was compact enough for vehicle transport and urban operations. But most importantly, the rifle maintained its zero under rigorous combat conditions. British snipers could crawl through mud, ford rivers, drop the rifle when taking cover, then pick it up and know the first shot would hit exactly where they aimed. German snipers using Carabiner 98K rifles often complained about losing zero after rough handling. Soviet snipers using machine-gun rifles faced similar issues. The Lee Enfield's rugged design kept British snipers in the fight. The number 32 telescopic sight matched the rifle's quality. 3.5 times magnification was modest compared to German 6-power scopes, but British doctrine emphasized field of view over magnification. The wider view helped locate targets and maintain situational awareness. The sight progressed through 3 marks with increasing refinement. The Mark I, introduced in 1942, featured a sliding eye shade and bullet drop compensation drum. The drum was graduated in 50-yard increments from 0 to 1,000 wide. Lateral deflection adjustments provided 16 minutes left and right. Each click represented 2 minutes of angle equaling 2 in of movement at 100 wide. This gave snipers precise control over point of impact. The Mk.I, introduced in 1943, offered finer side adjustments in 1 minute of angle increments. The Mark III in 1944 improved field of view to 8 degrees 30 minutes. Multiple manufacturers produced the scopes, including Periscope, Aldi's, Winchester, and Enfield. Canadian scopes made by Research Enterprises Limited went through their own evolution, designated C number 32. One design choice distinguished British scopes from German equivalents. The British scope mounted to the left side of the rifle rather than directly over the bore. This complicated shooting through loopholes, but it allowed the sniper to load the magazine without removing his cheek from the stock. Faster reloading in combat situations. British snipers carried additional equipment that completed their effectiveness. 7-power binoculars for observation. The Scout Regiment telescope for long-range spotting. Periscopes for viewing from concealment. Ghillie suits or capes for camouflage. Hessen scrim to break up outlines. Face veils in green and brown mesh. Some units used modified Dennis smocks with telescope pockets. 2-piece windproof camouflage suits provided both concealment and weather protection. Personal weapons included a .38 pistol and Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife. Entrenching tools for digging hides. Half-sacks with rations for extended operations. Multiple water bottles, compass, and maps. Ammunition was batch selected for consistency. Some use of armor-piercing and incendiary rounds for special targets. Tracer used sparingly as it revealed positions. This combination of selection, training, organization, and equipment created a sniper force of extraordinary effectiveness. The statistics prove it. British snipers achieved kill ratios often averaging roughly 1.3 to 1.5 shots per kill. Compare this to regular infantry, who expended tens of thousands of rounds per enemy casualty. Simple mathematics reveals the extraordinary efficiency. British snipers were approximately 4 orders of magnitude more lethal per shot fired, roughly 10,000 to 20,000 times more ammunition efficient than regular infantry. This efficiency translated to tangible combat effectiveness. One British sniper section of 8 men could achieve what an entire infantry company of 120 men could not. Systematic elimination of enemy leaders, denial of key terrain, intelligence gathering from forward positions, and unlike mass-deployed Soviet snipers who were often used in conventional combat roles, British snipers were true specialists deployed for specific missions. When a British sniper section was committed, commanders knew they were getting elite capability. The proof of British superiority came on battlefields across Europe, North Africa, and Italy. Normandy, June 6, 1944. D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history. British forces landing on Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches. Among them was Sergeant Harry M. Finesse of the 6th Battalion Green Howards. Just 20 years old, already a qualified sniper. He waded ashore on Gold Beach with his Lee Enfield No. 4 sealed in a condom to protect it from seawater. The bocage country beyond the beaches offered German defenders perfect sniper terrain. Ancient hedge created natural fortifications. Small fields limited lines of sight. Norman sunken lanes provided concealed movement routes. German snipers used this terrain expertly. They inflicted steady casualties on advancing Allied forces. American units in particular struggled against German snipers concealed in the dense vegetation. But British snipers like Finesse understood this terrain. They had trained in similar country in England. They knew how to read the hedge where German snipers would position themselves, how to approach without being spotted. Furness demonstrated the British approach in a single engagement. He spotted a German staff car 600 wide distant. Through his scope, he identified an officer exiting the vehicle. 600 wide wind from the left, slight upward angle. He adjusted his scope elevation drum, calculated wind drift, controlled his breathing, squeezed the trigger. The officer fell. One shot, one kill. The German response was immediate and massive. Mortars, artillery, 88 guns. They saturated the area where Furness had fired, but he was already gone. Standard British sniper doctrine. Fire, observe, hit. Extract immediately using pre-planned route. Never fire multiple shots from the same position. The Germans expended hundreds of shells hitting nothing. Furness moved to his next position and resumed operations. This engagement illustrates British sniper superiority perfectly. Precise shot at extreme range. Calm calculation under pressure. Disciplined extraction. The German response showed they took the threat seriously, but their massive expenditure of ammunition achieved nothing against a sniper who followed his training. Furness operated throughout the Normandy campaign. When he spotted a German sniper position at 400 m, he demonstrated the patience British training instilled. He observed for hours, studying the position, looking for patterns, waiting for the German to make a mistake. Finally, the German moved slightly. A glimpse of field gray uniform behind concealment. Furness fired. The German fell. Furness immediately went forward to claim the German G43 telescopic sighted rifle as a trophy. This aggressive follow-up was characteristic of British sniper confidence. They did not just kill enemy snipers, they recovered their weapons as proof. On another occasion, Furness killed a German motorcycle dispatch rider and retrieved his intelligence satchel. British snipers understood their intelligence-gathering role. Every enemy killed was an intelligence opportunity. Documents, maps, unit identifications. His closest call came when he used an operational German tank as cover to advance. He walked beside it undetected by the crew. When it stopped, he was caught in a barn by German infantry with an MG42 machine gun. The burst hit his boot heel, shooting it completely off. But Furness survived through luck and the poor aim of panicked German soldiers firing wildly in the confined space. His career continued through France, Holland, and Germany. He preferred working alone, the ultimate expression of British sniper self-reliance. When the war ended, he was the last surviving British sniper who had gone ashore on D-Day. His legacy demonstrates what British training produced. Not just a good shot, a complete hunter, a patient observer, a disciplined professional who understood that sniper warfare was about systematic application of skill over time. But perhaps the most remarkable British sniper achievement came from a New Zealander serving in British-commanded forces. Sergeant Alfred Clive Hume of the 23rd Battalion, 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force. The Battle of Cree, May 1941. German paratroopers had dropped across Cree in the largest airborne invasion ever attempted. The fighting was desperate and confused. Both sides struggled to establish control. German doctrine emphasized using snipers to eliminate Allied officers and establish psychological dominance. They positioned snipers to cover key terrain and slow Allied movements. Hume turned their doctrine against them. Over 8 days from May 20th to May 28th, 1941, Hume was credited with killing on the order of 30 German snipers. A remarkable tally, all through deliberate counter-sniper operations. He used captured German equipment to deceive his enemies. After killing his first German sniper, Hume took the man's camouflage smock and sniper rifle. He wore the German equipment while stalking other German positions. German snipers would see what appeared to be one of their own. They would relax their guard for a moment. That moment was fatal. Hume's tactics demonstrated British sniper training at its finest: use of deception, patience, and stalking, precision shooting when the opportunity came, systematic elimination of enemy specialists. On May 28th, while stalking his 34th sniper, Hume was wounded in the shoulder. Despite his wound, he continued fighting. He bayoneted a German sentry guarding New Zealand prisoners. He could not use his rifle for fear of hitting the prisoners. Then he charged a German mortar crew at Stylos, wounded alone. He broke up their position through sheer aggression. For these actions, Hume received the Victoria Cross. The citation specifically noted his exceptional counter-sniper work, credited with eliminating on the order of 30 enemy snipers, each one a trained German specialist, each one a threat to Allied forces removed permanently. No other Allied sniper achieved comparable counter-sniper success in a single campaign. Hume's 8-day total exceeded what most snipers achieved in years of combat. This was British sniper training in action. The selection process identified a man with the right temperament. The training gave him the skills. The doctrine allowed him to operate independently using his judgment. The result was devastating effectiveness. Commonwealth forces contributed significantly to British sniper operations across all theaters. Canadian sniper sections operated with distinction in Italy and Northwest Europe. Sergeant Harold, Marshal of the Calgary Highlanders, became one of the most photographed British Empire snipers. The image shows him in camouflage with Kukri and Mills' grenade at Capelin, Belgium in October 1944. He wore a modified Denison smock with improvements he made himself, cuffs from socks, full-length zip, special pocket for his telescope, face veil, every detail optimized for his mission through personal innovation. Canadian infantry battalions maintained scout and sniper platoon led by lieutenants. These platoon handled reconnaissance ahead of the battalion and sniper operations. The organizational emphasis again shows British Commonwealth doctrine. Concentration of specialists rather than dispersion across platoon. Australian snipers operated in North Africa and the Pacific. South African forces contributed sniper sections in Italy. Indian Army snipers fought in Burma. New Zealand provided some of the finest shots in British service. This Commonwealth contribution multiplied British sniper effectiveness. Training standards remained consistent. Equipment was standardized. Doctrine was shared. The result was a coherent sniper force spanning multiple nations, but operating with unified excellence. Italy provided perhaps the ideal terrain for British sniper operations. The Italian campaign from 1943 to 1945 featured mountain warfare, close country, static positions, long ranges, everything that favored patient, skilled snipers over mass deployment. Monte Cassino, January to May 1944, showed both the challenges British snipers faced and their effectiveness when properly employed. German 1st Follower Division held the monastery at top a 17,006 ft hill. They had elevation advantage, perfect observation over Allied approaches, natural cover in the rocky terrain. German snipers inflicted steady casualties on Allied forces trying to advance. The monastery ruins provided endless hiding spots. Rubble created concealment. Allied artillery actually helped German snipers by creating more debris to hide in. British and Commonwealth snipers worked to counter the German threat. They set up positions in forward areas, used their observation skills to map German positions, called in artillery strikes on identified sniper locations. The 28th Maui Battalion took over 60% casualties at the railway station. German snipers killed runners and signalers to disrupt communications. Without communications, Allied attacks broke down. But when British snipers could establish good positions, they dominated their fields of fire. Captain Seward documented one engagement near the Foglio River. British snipers watched the far bank where Germans changed sentries every hour. At first, the Germans were cautious. British snipers showed restraint. They did not shoot at difficult targets. They waited for the Germans to become complacent, to assume the British were not watching, to relax their guard. Later in the day, 6 Germans exposed themselves from the waist up. 4 British snipers were in position. Each selected a target. They fired simultaneously. 3 Germans fell. The 4th was wounded. Before the survivors could react, the British snipers had extracted. This engagement shows British sniper doctrine perfectly. Patient observation, waiting for optimal opportunities, disciplined fire control, coordinated action, immediate extraction. The Gothic Lion operations from August to December 1940 saw Canadian 1st Corps assault fortified mountain positions. Private L.V. Hughes of the Canadian 48th Highlanders was documented sniping German positions near the Foglio River. The rugged terrain and static front lines created ideal sniper conditions. Both sides employed snipers extensively. The difference was training quality. German snipers were often infantrymen given basic instruction and a scoped rifle. British Commonwealth snipers were specialists with months of training. When sniper-dueled sniper training quality determined outcomes, North Africa presented different challenges. The open desert did not favor sniper operations. Long ranges suited armored vehicles and artillery. Minimal vegetation offered little concealment. Extreme heat affected both equipment and men. But wherever the fighting moved to close country, British snipers proved their worth. Tunisia and Sicily saw increased sniper activity as the terrain changed from open desert to broken ground. The Long-Range Desert Group, formed in June 1940, conducted reconnaissance and raiding operations. While not primarily a sniper unit, LRDG patrols included skilled marksmen. They operated deep behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence and disrupting communications. When static positions formed, such as during the Siege of Tobruk or the Lamagny battles, snipers came into their own. British positions would have designated snipers watching no man's land continuously. Any German who exposed himself risked immediate accurate fire. The 1st Airborne Division earned particular recognition for sniper effectiveness. During Operation Market Garden at Arnhem in September 1944, 1st Airborne snipers were noted as very feared by their German opponents due to their preference for headshot. This detail reveals British sniper confidence. Center mass shots were easier and more forgiving. Headshot required perfect calculation and steady aim. That British snipers consistently attempted headshot shows how thoroughly they trusted their training and equipment. The Rhine Crossing, Operation Plunder, in March 1945, demonstrated British combined arms competence with sniper support. The 51st Highland Division crossed under massive smoke screens. Snipers from 3 Blackwell Watch battalions provided covering fire. The 6th Airborne Division conducted the largest single-lift daylight airborne operation in history, Operation Varsity. On March 24th, 7,200 British paratroopers deployed with sniper sections integrated into the force. They suffered severe casualties from German anti-aircraft fire and ground defenses, but they secured their objectives, and the snipers immediately began counter-sniper work. Throughout the Northwest Europe campaign from D-Day to V-Day, British snipers maintained their professional edge. They adapted to changing terrain, urban warfare in Bocage fighting in Normandy, open tank country toward Files, forest fighting in the Ardennes, river crossings, city fighting in Germany. Every environment demanded different techniques. British training had prepared snipers for this variety. Soviet snipers trained primarily for the Eastern Front conditions. They excelled in rubble and ruins. British snipers operated effectively anywhere. The strategic impact of British sniper operations exceeded their small numbers. 8 men per battalion, perhaps a few thousand qualified snipers across the entire British Army by 1945. But those few thousand achieved disproportionate results. There,